This is going to be an absolute banger. I'm so excited to get this out there to you. And this essentially is a video on if I was to start over my health and fitness journey, here is exactly what I would do. And this is going to be great for anyone watching this that just feels like you're constantly spinning your wheels. You know, you're on the bandwagon, you're off the bandwagon, you make a bit of progress, you make no progress, and you know, you're in your 30s and you've just, not got much progress to show for the effort that you put in and what you want to achieve. This is the ultimate reset. And for a lot of you, we're in the thick of summer. It's busy, it's stressful. Maybe you're thinking about September and thinking, that's my opportunity to just reset the button and go for it, commit to my health and fitness. Well, here's everything that you need. And I'm going to break this down. So make sure you stick around till the end. Whatever you're doing, just sit, enjoy, watch, listen. And I know you'll take a lot from this. And this is exactly what I would do if I could start all over, right? If I wanted to just draw a line under the sand and I just wanted to commit to my health and fitness journey. And this is not specifically, fat loss. This is not specifically, building muscle, gaining fitness, showing up as the best version of yourself. This is absolutely everything, okay? This covers health and fitness from start to finish because that's what it is. In our industry, there's too much, just weight loss, just building muscle, just, getting a sense of achievement, just building habits. Like, coaching should be an holistic approach, because if you truly want to achieve and sustain your dream body and healthy lifestyle, there are multiple, points to this. It's not just one thing, because at one stage you need something, which initially might be a bit of weight loss or a bit of habit change. But then if you want to sustain that, you need to build lean muscle tissue. If you're building lean muscle tissue, then you're going to want to, test yourself and see what you're capable of with performance goals. So one thing leads into another, and it's really important to know that. So anyway, here we go. Where do we start then? So what would you do, Ben, if I was going to restart my health and fitness journey? What's the one thing that, how do I start? What's the one thing I need? And this is where adults get it wrong. They jump straight into, right, what training plan do I need? What nutrition plan do I need? And it's like you're missing the fundamental thing, which is what is the goal, but not just the goal, right? Because, I just want to lose a bit of weight. Like, surface level, there's no excitement, there's no urgency, there's no meaningfulness in your life. You're not going to get out of bed at 5 a.m. and commit to doing the work, right? So we want an audacious goal. And this is where everything flows from, because an audacious goal is essentially sexifying a goal, okay? Instead of just, I want to lose a couple of kilos, to look a bit better, it's, I want to get into the best shape of my life. I want to lose 10 kilos and learn how to sustain it. It's just going to that next level. And why an audacious goal is so important, because as a busy adult with a career, maybe a family, busy social life, there are so many other things in your life that are more of a priority right now, and they take up your energy, your bandwidth. And unless we set an audacious goal, something that stretches you, gets you out of your comfort zone, gets you actually nervous but excited to commit to it, and inspires you to make a change, you're never going to make a change. Okay, it's always going to be, I'd love to get fitter, or I'd love to get leaner, I'd love to test myself, but it's just never a big enough priority. So we have to start with setting an audacious goal. Okay, that is the first thing. Once we've established that audacious goal, and that audacious goal should have a timeline. So, if you do want to lose weight, that's fine, but let's set a timeline on it. Right, I'm going to commit to 12 weeks of weight loss. I want to be in the best shape of my life come December. And I'm going to document that with, a social media, a progress picture or an update on my journey. And that doesn't have to be topless. That could be, wearing the same outfit, so take a picture in a dress and then take a picture in 12 weeks time in a dress. Like, there's loads of different ways that you can work this, but you have to understand what your goal is, and then you have to make it audacious. You have to create a deadline, because otherwise there's no urgency, there's no commitment. You have to get accountable. So you have to tell, the people around you that mean the most, your family members, I'm going into this 12-week weight loss journey. I'm going to, here's the goal. This is the target I've set myself. Like, you have to make it a thing. You can't hide it from the world. Otherwise, you just always justify yourself. You don't fully express the goal and make it a priority in your life. So that's the first thing. And what I do with clients is we look at, we actually have a framework for setting an audacious goal. We attach a timeline to it. We attach a reward at the end, accountability tasks to actually make it a thing. Because in your mind, you could say, I'm going to lose 20 kilos by the end of the year. But it's like, how can we actually manifest that and make it happen? The steps that we need to take. But that's the first thing. We need a goal, okay? So understand what the goal is. Fitter, stronger, improve performance, weight loss. Understand the goal, and then think how you can make it a bit more audacious. Think, when you'd want to achieve it by. Okay, so just really understand the layers of your goal, attach something a bit more audacious and exciting, like just make that goal meaningful enough. Okay, make it exciting. Do you know what? I've always wanted to I just want to lose a stone and I want to start running. Okay, brilliant. Set yourself a goal of, I'm going to lose a stone in the next 12 weeks and, I'm going to start running. Brilliant. Now it's a bit more exciting than just, I want to lose a few kilos and feel better. You understand? Then we go into the next tier, okay? And there's 3 things that we need to make that goal happen, all right? If we've got a goal, brilliant, but we need structure. We need things that allow us to actually move the needle towards that goal. So the first thing that we want to look at is daily habits. What habits can you implement every single day as a non-negotiable that are going to move you towards that goal? So if your goal is weight loss, some of them habits might be, I need to go for 2 walks a day, all right? Or I need to hit 8,000 steps a day. Okay, that's a daily habit that aligns with the goal that you want to achieve. Okay, so that's a daily non-negotiable. Another habit might be, I need to drink, 3 litres of water. Another habit might be, I need to have 2 pieces of, a piece of fruit with every meal and 2 servings of vegetables. Okay, there's loads of different habits. There's an entire list and ones that I prioritize with clients that help them to prioritize their goals quicker. Okay, so for weight loss, like 20 to 40 grams of protein for breakfast, that's a really big one. But there's loads, again, the daily movement, getting enough sleep and various other things. But you have to understand daily habits. And if you were to just set like 1 to 3 habits that align with who you want to be, that's going to really help. Because if we look at behavior change and achieving results, it all comes from a stable base. Think about a house, right? You couldn't build a house without solid foundations. So we have to start changing behavior, and we do that from building better habits. It's all about frequency of building these into your life. So establishing some fundamental habits is really key. And it kind of links into the next 2. We need a training plan, okay? But we do not need any other training plan. ChatGPT, what you used to do 10 years ago with a PT, what your friends do in gym classes, just generic. Like if you set your goal, you need a plan that is catered for that. You can't just do a random plan, something that's not bespoke to you. And it can't just be all right, I'm going to follow this plan for the next 12 weeks, okay? You have to understand, like, what is the purpose of that plan? And how are you going to implement that into your life? And how are you going to progress it? Because there's one thing just following a plan and, you need to be tracking the weights that you're using. You need to be managing like intensity, volume, progressive overload, adaptation over a period. So say it's a 12-week. You need to choose exercises that align with your goals. If it's weight loss and you really want to see like your back improve or your legs, we need to be biasing that in your training program. So it's a lot more than just, I'm just going to start going to the gym. Don't get me wrong, it's great, going and exercising, that's brilliant, but you've done that for years and that doesn't warrant the change that you want to see. You have to be specific and you have to, understand what that takes. And if you don't know, that's why you need support. You need help. You need someone to do that for you and help you to understand why you're doing something, not just do this. It's like, yeah, but why? And actually understanding that process as well so you can learn how to do it forever. So yeah, you need that bespoke training plan that links into that audacious goal, that you know how to progress and aligns with what you actually want to achieve. Exercises, considerations of like your schedule as well and equipment that you have available to you, making sure that you're nailing the fundamental principles of your goals. And the final thing is you need a nutrition strategy. And the reason I said strategy is because it's a lot more than just hitting your macros. Don't get me wrong, for a lot of you, if your goal is weight loss, yes, calorie tracking, calorie deficit, protein, carbs, fats, yep, that's all important. You do need parameters. There is a case where you don't need to track as well, and just having principles to follow can be more advantageous for you. But again, you need parameters to work with, but you need a strategy. So if your goal is to, in 12 weeks, say, to lose weight and you're going to, and start running, you want to lose a stone, what is the nutrition strategy over that 12 weeks? It can't just be, I'm just going to hit these calories every single day. It has to be more than that. We have to understand, like, when do we make changes? So do we do this for 4 weeks? We have a diet break and then we do another 4 weeks, and then another 4 weeks to finish. Like, you've got to be a bit more tactical with that strategy. What percentage of a deficit are you in? Are we going 20, 25, 30? and changing it every 4 weeks? Are we just going 30 straight? Like, there's so many different elements to that, and it's working out what's best for you. But even just understanding, like, having set meal options. So one of the things that we talk about with our clients is if the first 2 meals of the day we can keep very similar and just have them on repeat. So breakfast, have 1 to 2 options, lunch, 1 to 2 options, keeps it super simple. You know, we have an afternoon snack as well. And then obviously dinner can be a bit more flexible when we're out and about and things like that. If you're going to be going out for food as well, just learning how we can eat out and still stay on track. So there's different elements to that. But before I move on, they're the 3 things that you need. Once you've got your audacious goal, we need to understand what habits, 1 to 3 non-negotiables, you need to implement every single day to move the needle towards that goal. We need a set training plan bespoke to you and actually understanding how that leads and like feeds into the goal, not just a random plan that you follow. And then the nutrition strategy. Yes, we need set parameters, but understanding this is what I'm going to follow and for how long, and actually then delving into, well, if we're getting you to hit X amount of calories and protein, what does that look like for me? Okay, because you might not like eggs, so what are you going to have for breakfast then? You know, it's just being a bit more specific, creating kind of meal plans within your parameters. And then there's a couple of other things we're going to move on to, and this is the next tier, okay? Here we've got success metrics. There is absolutely no point in you going on your journey and not being able to measure your success, because you're going to be very biased towards no progress. You've got a lot of self-doubt. You've tried and failed before. It's very hard for you to see progress, okay? But seeing is believing, and we need to create as much evidence as we can to support that you are changing, because that's motivational. That'll give you the drive to keep going and get you to believe in yourself. So success metrics, let's just use, again, fat loss as a journey. Scale weight is one, but measurements and progress pictures are 2 that a lot of people don't do, but you should, okay? Because the scale fluctuates because of the menstrual cycle, alcohol, salt, sleep, digestion, hormones, stress, a million other things, right? So we can't just use scale weight. We need to track that daily and see the trend, but also, you know, every 2 weeks, every 4 weeks, can we be doing progress pictures? Can we be doing measurements so we can actually see a bigger picture, right? And have more ability to create evidence that you are progressing. So you need success metrics. If your goal, audacious goal, is to do a high rocks, you know, we need to be able to measure your success. So at the start of your high rocks journey, do we get you to test how fast you can row 1,000 meters, how fast you can row ski 1,000 meters, how long it takes you to do 100 wall balls in, you know, in however long? You know, can we test that at the start and then test it towards the end, or test it halfway through your training block so we can actually see I'm making improvements? That's great. If you've got a running goal, can we test your 5K and then test it again? Like, can we just use metrics of success to validate the progress that you're making? And it's so exciting. It turns just a goal that you think about in your head and, oh, I want to lose a bit of weight, I'm on the journey, to actually, like, you're being so much more measured with your approach. And that's exciting and fulfilling because you're seeing more progress than you ever have before, and you're actually invested into the journey properly. So success metrics is key. Also, how you feel, because sometimes you can feel progress before you see it. That's important. We do weekly check-ins, touch points in the week to help show you that, and we do like monthly reviews with clients where we look at progress pictures, measurements, you know, review their data and kind of say, look, this is how you're doing, and everything else. The other thing that we need is identity change. The reality is, if we get this process right, we're going to be starting to change our identity, because we're building habits that align with who we want to become. We've got a goal that's actually meaningful. So we're going to start to change that identity, because if you just focus on the short-term result of, you know, in 8 weeks or in 4 weeks, I want to achieve this, so I'm going to track my calories. You know, if you're just doing it to achieve a result, you're never going to sustain it. So we have to cultivate the right identity, and it kind of links into the self-development work that we can do. And it depends like where you're at, but we all have narratives in our head that have limited us, and that's why we're not where we want to be. If you're not able to run at the, you know, if you're not able to like get stronger, build muscle, or achieve a performance goal, maybe that's because you're scared of gaining weight, you're scared of eating carbohydrates, you're scared of pushing yourself, fear of injuring or whatever. And then also from a weight loss standpoint, you might doubt yourself and think that you're not worthy of success, or you were born fat, or you don't have the right genetics, you like food too much. So we're all going to have limitations in our mind. So actually working on evolving your identity is key. This will help, but actually specific work around like affirming your goals, challenging the narratives in your head, and just doing the mental work as well. We've got some like a daily habit that I get clients to do that helps them to evolve their identity, to live life in question, to challenge their narratives. And it's just a really powerful way of, just another element to your health and fitness journey that a lot don't really appreciate. And the final thing then to finish, and by the way, I should have mentioned this at the start, this is part one. I'm actually going to do a part 2 video on this just to explain, like, if this is what you need to do to start, I'm going to feed that into our lean and fulfilled method. I'm going to show you how I take a client from starting their journey from scratch, the different phases they go through, and how that helps them go from where they are now, spinning the wheels, stuck in a body and lifestyle they just don't like, to, completely, a 360-degree transformation, improving habits, mindset, how they look, how they feel, their achievements, just a full transformation from top to toe, inside and out. So I'm going to go through that in part 2. But just the final thing in part 1 is the long-term vision and a roadmap, okay? So we've got our audacious goal, we've got the things that we're doing to help us achieve that. We're measuring our success along the way to keep us motivated and knowing that we're on the right tracks. And then if you need to make any adjustments, you can. We're changing our identity, so we're actually, building something that will last. And then for me, it's the long-term vision. So if the goal is to get in the best shape of our life in 12 weeks after summer, amazing, but then what? What's the long-term vision of that? Because otherwise you'll get to the end, say you've achieved it, you feel amazing, then you fall off the end of the cliff. It's like, well, what now? So you have to have that longer term vision. And for a lot of people, it's once I finally get into a place that I'm happy, I'm achieving things, I'm in a better shape, I'm feeling great, I'm in a good routine, I want to sustain that. I want to know how I can keep doing this. But obviously you're not going to keep losing weight forever. You're not going to keep doing the same thing. So how do I evolve? How do I adapt? How do I maintain this? Okay. So understanding that long-term vision is key, because then you can develop an exit strategy. So after the 12 weeks, what's the plan? Because we're not going to, if it's a weight loss journey, we're not going to keep losing weight. So how do I then sustain it? What do I then need to do in terms of how can I reset my goal? How does the habits, the training plan, and the nutrition change? How do the metrics of success change? What do I need to do from an identity standpoint? So you can see how that all then feeds into the next phase. And that'll become apparent in part 2. But also a roadmap. Again, if you've got a 12-week, if you've got a roadmap of, say, 12 months, right? And we use this with every single client. We get a full roadmap and we go, here's the year, right? What are the goals and when? So again, the first one, 12-week weight loss phase is the example I keep using. And then after that, we're going to go into phase sustain, where I want to come away from weight loss. I want to focus on building, getting stronger, maybe getting into running. So it's a timeline, okay? Just like you have a timeline with your work, timeline with your life, holidays, socials, and a calendar. It's having a calendar for your health and fitness journey, a roadmap, so you can see the different phases that you're going to be going in, times when you're having a bit of a break and you're just maintaining, times when you want to push performance, times when you want to drop body fat, and it just helps you to manage your health and fitness just as you would work and life. So that is everything that I would do from start to finish if I wanted to start over my health and fitness journey. I hope you found this valuable. Any questions, drop a comment below, message me at Ben Coach on Instagram, we can chat. And I'd love to help and hear about your story, your journey. And then, let's get on with part 2. But hopefully all is good. Hopefully the mic has worked. I'll find out in a minute when I stop this recording. Long story short, before coming on here, and I've realized the last couple of YouTube videos, the sound's been terrible. And I worked out that the mic wasn't working and I plugged the wrong thing in. Anyway, I'm just chatting absolute waffle. So let's move on. Hope that was useful. See you in the next one.